Hello everyone and welcome to the Blockchain Startup Show. I'm Avan Dabash. Today we have an exciting platform that's changing the game for traditional gamers in the Web3 world. Meet Elixir, the PC game launcher that brings next-gen Web3 games to your fingertips. Established in 2018, Elixir is not only the owner of several top-quality IP titles, but has also integrated over 60 major Web3 games, making it the go-to multi-chain Web3 game launcher worldwide. We got the opportunity with Carlos Roldan, the founder and CEO of Elixir, where he shared his proudest gaming moment, insights on the current state of Web3, and his ambitious plans for the future of Elixir. I'd also like to welcome on board our guest, COO and Head of Investment for SGC, Ian Whitcock. Ian and Carlos, welcome to the show. Now, Carlos, I'm going to come to you first. Tell us a little bit more about your journey in Web3. What's that been like?
Sure. So I will explain how I jumped into Web3. So I was in 2014. I was finishing my degree on computer science, and right after I saw the opportunity to jump into the gaming aspect of it. Back then, there was no much gaming ecosystem around. NFTs were just not even a promise. It was not even existing at all. OpenSea and other big NFT aspects of the Web3 ecosystem, they were not even live and existing. And I decided to learn more and find out when could be the best opportunity to start into Web3 professionally, which it wasn't until a few years after. And then that's how I got started with Elixir Games.
Well, that's interesting. And Ian, can you tell us what was your investment thesis behind actually backing a company like Elixir?
The bulk of the thesis is backing great guys like Carlos. But now let's get into it. We truly believe that Web3 gaming can bring more value to the end customers, bring more ownership to them, and ultimately that the Web3 market segment is going to grow relative to its Web2 counterpart and grow quickly. And if we believe that Web3 gaming is a segment that will grow because of its unique differentiators, we need to look at the growth inhibitors. Like, why isn't it growing at the pace that we think it should be? And I would say that those inhibitors are something like discoverability, distribution, the quality of the games, which also probably gets to the sustainability of the games. And we see Elixir directly working to solve, two of these problems, and then kind of indirectly also positively impacting the third problem. So discoverability. Elixir becomes a place where Web3 games are easily accessible to a Web2 audience. Distribution. Elixir is a place where games could be downloaded and played in a frictionless game. And then third, on the quality of games, indirectly discoverability and distribution being solved for brings a lot more talent to the Web3 ecosystem. And then directly, Elixir also has a developer dashboard and SDK to further reduce the friction in getting games online and ready to play. So we strongly believe that the Elixir team, through all of this, has both a great grasp of what the challenges are in Web3 gaming, and then the operational capabilities to actually address those challenges. It truly is a great product. Carlos and co have done a great job. So highly recommend hopping on for a test trial.
Carlos, tell us a little bit more about Elixir. What's its genesis?
So everything happened 5 years ago. We saw Steam, which is the huge gaming distribution platform, banning Bitcoin payments. And that was the wake-up moment for me to realize and have the vision that this technology is way too powerful to don't look at it from a gaming perspective. And that's what made me found the company with the perspective of building a game launcher, a game distribution where you can discover games, access a new offering of games that they provide a way more open economy and with this technology, and integrate these Bitcoin technologies that by then Steam, the reference, was banning and prohibiting from that. So that was the inception, and what it is today is something way more wide. We are looking at Elixir Games as the de facto game distribution of Web3, where we host over 100 games, where has a huge impact from the discoverability to the user journey of gamers. Not only Web3 gamers, traditional gamers involved. And that's in a nutshell what we are building and how everything started.
And Carlos, if you could elaborate on the partnerships that Elixir currently has?
Great question, by the way. So we recently announced our partnership with GameStop, public company in the US. And we've been also working with other close partners like Square Enix, another public company, and from Japan, which are the very, very reputable game publisher from dozens and many, many titles, but including Final Fantasy and some other of the same genre. We also count with other smaller names as part of our partners network, which involves small games, small studios, and other larger or mid-size studios. We also have different type of partners, including in the Web3, not only games, publishers, or enterprises, such as community groups, esport teams, and that's the general profile of the partners that they're around us.
Why don't you delve deeper, Carlos? Tell us a little bit more about Elixir. Tell us a little bit more about the user traction.
So counting the user traction comes mostly from the games. And taking that as a reference, we have over 100 games. Around the top 10 games, they have an average active users of 2,000 to 6,000 daily active users. So that's a little bit of the estimate numbers that I can give here publicly. And the traction has been spiking recently over the last months, especially since announcing our biggest partners that this been, as previously mentioned in the previous questions, the Square Enix and now GameStop. This has been a tremendous trend on increase. We also have perceived an interesting aspect of our user activity, which is migrating the trading profile or the trading behavior of the Web3 user into a much more health gaming aspect of that. So we see higher retention rates, we see higher gaming activity instead of a higher volume of traders, which is what we've seen in the past, because we've been live since 2 years ago, which includes this big boom of Web3 game or play to earn, and that trend that came popular around 1.5 years ago. So we've been here before and after that boom, seeing this change of behaviors in the user activity inside of the platform.
Got it. Okay, have a question for the both of you. And Ian, I'm going to get in your take first. Do you think Web3 games currently have a distribution problem?
It's not just Web3 gaming. It's a great question. It's not just Web3 gaming that has a distribution problem right now. It's kind of the Web3 ecosystem in general. And right now, Web3 products, say you want to use a Web3 product, a lot of the discoverability is happening on Twitter. Okay, so you find a DeFi or an NFT project that you want to interact with on the discoverability layer of Twitter. And then how do you interact with that? Okay, now you have to go and get a MetaMask wallet. You have to fund that MetaMask wallet. It's a lot of friction across this entire value chain. And with the processes as they currently are, we're going to stay as a niche ecosystem unless we start to change and evolve some of these processes. So on the plus side, there are proven ways to get distribution. One of those ways of getting distribution is very much working with we'll call it our Web2 partners, Web2 tech giants largely, leveraging their infrastructure, app stores, or things like that. For many reasons, that like Web2, Web3 crossover, working with those companies is not always a good fit on both sides. So then comes next what Elixir's trying to do and what Carlos mentioned earlier. Using the concepts and the product model that Steam popularized to create a one-stop shop for Web3 games. Through this, you're chipping away at distribution challenges, both for Web3 games, but also for the Web3 ecosystem in general. So it's thinking about the problem correctly and then executing to get us to a point where we have distribution. So super excited about that entire thought process there.
Right, and Carlos, let me get in your take, your view. Do you think that the Web3 games currently have a distribution issue?
I think Web3 gaming has a onboarding problem. When you come to distribute games, whether if it's Web3 or they are traditional games, you follow us quality standards that they are predominantly set by the large giants of Epic Games or Steam. Replicating the same quality is very complicated, especially when those giants, they are not really supportive with Web3 titles. So this limits the success rate of those games. And that's why they have to find other solutions that they try to set up the quality standard as close as possible to these references, but being friendly, and not just friendly, but also understanding natively the reasoning behind Web3, the technologies that support it, and giving all of the infrastructure to allow this to happen. And that's why Elixir is today in place and is set up as the reference on Web3 game distribution. Some of them call it like the Steam of Web3, precisely because we want to get as close as possible to those quality standards and understanding the needs of Web3 games to be in place.
All right, Carlos, Ian, stay on with us. We've really covered some intriguing ground in our discussion. On the other side of this quick break, we'll dive deeper into Elixir's journey. So Carlos, what do you think will be that one critical event which will cause a mass migration of gamers from Web 2 to Web 3?
I think it will be a combination of a couple of events taking place. Let me describe why. First of all, is the event of quality standards for distribution, referencing what I was saying in my earlier answer. Once that is solved, once we have the same user journey as how most of the gamers access games, but on Web3, that will bridge easier the Web2 into gamers into Web3. The second thing or second event that I think it will cause an impact is the quality of the games. Distribution doesn't have to be just high in terms of quality. The production of the titles should be as high as the games that they become popular on Web2. And I want to highlight that most of the games that they're building on Web3, they are still very early. And very early, I mean that they don't have the ability to go live public in a production environment to support more than 100,000 active players. They don't have the infrastructure and they don't have the gameplay core loop finished. Another event that I think could create even a major impact once we have the first and second event that I mentioned in place, I think it would be the trends. And these trends happen often on Web3. Last one on gaming was huge. It was, as I mentioned as well earlier, a couple of years ago. It was predominantly through the Axie Infinity movement that made a lot of noise from different parties involved in the ecosystem, from investors, from games, from different areas. And once these events of trends appear and these popular spreads all around the ecosystem and the industry, there is a gap of opportunity to onboard a massive amount of Web2 gamers into Web3. The last wave, it was set, in my opinion, with a not mature ecosystem. So that's why all of them came, they saw something they didn't like and they went back. But I think we're getting closer to a point of maturity where the next wave of gamers that they will access through a trend or through an event that may cause major eyes to look at, it will be a way more mature ecosystem, games, distribution into a format that it will be way more attractive and appealing for gamers to stick into Web3, understand it, and don't be afraid of the components of it.
So Carlos, what does massive success look like for Elixir?
That's a great question, because I think that connecting the previous answer, once that massive event that is gonna attract looks of many gamers to see what Web3 gaming has to offer, the massive success for Elixir represents the entry door for those gamers to meet those Web3 games through our platform, through our infrastructure, and through our distribution channels. That's why we believe that building the good gateway, and the good, I mean the robust, attractive, understanding the both worlds of Web3 and Web2, it should be essential to allow this to happen. So that's, in my opinion, what would represent the success or the massive event of success that Elixir could face. And I think we're getting closer. Ecosystem is more mature. Games are reaching a status of quality that they're every time more ready for production. And we are here supporting all of this in our shoulders to make it happen.
I'm sure. And, how has the response been from traditional gamers who've actually used it? Have you noticed any notable shifts in their perception of Web3 games?
Perception of Web3 games or NFT games from gamers, it It comes after a set of events happening over the last years where Web3 gaming has been exploited just to have a speculation aspect that gamers hate. Gamers want to play games because they love gaming. They don't like tokens, they don't like speculation, and that's a basic understanding. So we've been received different behavior flows when they been presenting different Web3 games. So we have different games, like they are very aggressive on their strategy to have full token or full on-chain Web3 components. Then we have other games that are very minimalistic. At the end of the day, the games that they are more appealing, I mean, Web3 for normal gamers are nice games that you can play and feel satisfied with the gameplay, that you feel that they are connecting with you. A great example that is happening right now as a big trending topic, it's a game called Only Up. It's a very casual game where you have to go up and up, jumping from different platforms. It's a platform game. The game has a connection with an NFT community called Goblin Town. But we have all the streamers, all the content creators and influencers worldwide right now on live stream, streaming this game. They're on Twitch, they're in different platforms, they are addicted to this game. The fact that this is a Web3 game and it doesn't have a very aggressive integration with Web3 components is what is making it successful, because the game is fun and it's more important to the game than the Web3 itself. So the Web3 component can be in different ways. It can be as part of an IP of the game. It can be as in-game transactions, or it can be as just token holding and interacting with the token economy of the game. At the end of the day, what is going to be really successful and under the eyes of the gamers and the Web2 traditional gaming community is a game that is beautiful per se. It's beautiful itself regarding the Web3 components.
Right, and I want to get in both your opinions on this. And Ian, let me start off with you in terms of your views on India's Web3 gaming ecosystem.
India has some of the best game development studios, quite frankly, in the world. So they have great game development studios on kind of the supply of game side. And then they have a huge demand for these games. You have a huge, captive user base of people who have grown up with games, especially kind of the Gen Zs. So you really have both sides of these equations. And then you have also a tech hungry audience. So you have an audience of folks that's used to using the distribution channels of kind of the big techs and things like this. So all three of these things make Web3 gaming a little bit more seamless for a younger tech savvy population like the Indian population. And then anecdotally, we've also seen in India that governments, regulators have been really excited about helping folks leverage Web3 technology, right? So there's sandboxes in Telangana and in other regions of the country as well. And these sandboxes and these regulators and these officials have essentially come to us and said, what policies do we need to put in place to really stimulate this Web3 gaming ecosystem? So there's really a push at almost all levels of the country to really put their footprint in the Web3 gaming ecosystem. This is really exciting.
And Carlos, would you concur? What are your views?
Yeah, I think India is probably the best case where an early tech like Web3 that is changing rapidly, is hard to dominate due to the nature of how fast it's evolving. I think India is mastering very well this in technology in general. The way that emerging technology appears is hard to master, and India can easily put their fingers and really adapt to this new tech as an emerging country and an emerging technology. And I think the gaming impact has a huge benefit for the technology associated to, in this case, Web3, due to the cases that India, most pioneer studios that they can create, and I'm talking specifically about player-owned experiences or open economies that they've been having in the past. I think India has a massive opportunity due to the expertise on getting fast technology deliver fast, at the same time as the opportunity to create something that it hasn't been yet fully exploited in a healthy and mature way. I think there is a huge opportunity in the ecosystem, and India has a good hands to make it happen.
So Carlos, let's understand what kind of advice you're going to give some young founders in Web3. What's the critical take?
So that's a great question, because when my advice is always regarding that Web3 should not be part of the problem or neither part of the equation or the solution. Web3 is technology that can help leverage different aspects of an economy model inside of a business, inside of a product, and should be applicable at the same level of importance as a robust traditional business model, or it should be applicable at the same level of a good expansion plan and an expansion line. So my advice is this technology is changing severely and super fast. Is better to understand the trends in Web3. Many of the things that they have happened in the past, they keep happening right now, and this you see these patterns of behavior. So young founders should look at open mindsets, thinking out of the box, and being able to understand that Web3 should be used in a way that can make sense instead of forcing a Web3 component into a business just to make it attractive, appealing, or investment-wise could use it for a reason. So in the majority of the cases in the technology, I even say that Web3 or tokens per se, they might not make sense, but in a few cases they do. And in those cases are worth exploring why from a traditional business perspective.
Ian, would you like to share your pearls of wisdom when it comes to young founders in Web3?
My first word of advice would be listen to your customers and be a student of the ecosystem. So the great thing about Web3 right now is that we have great case studies. We have case studies from Web2. We have concepts that we can now modify and make more challenges, make more powerful with kind of our Web3 blockchains and things like that to solve challenges that we face in the Web2 world. And then kind of my second advice would be related to build what you're passionate about, not just what you can raise money for. Like you've heard Carlos speak for the last bit of time. Carlos really loves games. This energy is infectious. Whether or not you're on investor call or even you're on the platform, you can tell that it's built by someone who really loves games. And then finally, it should be fun for you to be an entrepreneur in this ecosystem. There's so much design space in this industry to work with, so many new concepts that you can bring to the table that if you're not having fun, you might be building the wrong product.
Well, thank you so much, both Carlos as well as Ian, for joining in today on the show and sharing with us your expertise and your wealth of knowledge. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the close of another episode of the Blockchain Startup Show. Stay tuned for more exciting discussions in the future.